that summer was one of the hottest summers on record in Montana. And summers in Montana, the fire danger it's like here. It's the fire danger is through the roof. Yeah, it just so one of the main concerns that landowners had about us being out there is that we were going to start a fire.
No smoking.
No smoking cigarettes. You know, we had very tight restrictions on, you know, the oven was constantly tended to so that no stray sparks. It was kind of a tension that rode through the whole time we were there. So we were out there we were shooting for about 2 weeks, and in the middle there we had our official day off. And the day that we went into town and people were kind of going into town and coming back, on our way back there was a heat lightning storm.
Incredible.
And we're driving back to where we could kind of, the general direction of where our camp is. And
you could see the whole sky.
Yeah.
And there was just
a lightning strike hits, and then there's smoke. And yeah, we go back. Turns out it wasn't the camp that was on fire. It was just behind us. And we piled into because it's remote and there is no fire department. It's ranchers, it's ranch land. So if something like that happens, the ranchers, they have water trucks and they go and they put out the fire. And we were there, and in our limited capacity, we had a responsibility to be caretakers as well. So we said, okay, let's get in the thing and go out to where this fire is burning, and hopefully we can do something about it. It's very intense driving. You're driving towards billowing smoke on the horizon, and as you get closer, the whole horizon is covered in smoke. But yeah, by the time we got there, there were a couple other water trucks out there, and we just got in line and did what you do when there's a big brush fire. And
yeah. I'll say this too, you could think we were like filmmakers going, like, this is amazing and we're going to go get in there and fake and look like we're helping. No, that's these guys knowing everybody. We did what we would have done. Literally, I was with Rizzo. It was funny. I think that was the last day. The next day we were going to kind of break Tokyo and tell everybody what we had been going without talking about anything to this point.
The game of cops and robbers was going to be over, so we could consolidate the storyline.
And we were flying, and just there was no. I mean, I had the camera, and I was I knew I'm filming this motherfucker. This is good. But we just went to it. Everything you see, we helped, I didn't. I was running around handing people. I had hard-boiled eggs because we didn't have time to eat, and I just grabbed a bunch and shovels and the three best men we could find, and jumped in the car and went out there. But dude, those guys really helped stop the fire, and literally it was protecting our land, So it was really interesting.
I would say the last third of the movie still needed to happen, and in order for that to happen, the elements had to come together. So after the first, actually it was a week and a half, I think, before we really got there.
Sorry. We had a little meeting of the minds, between the directors, and we were kind of well, we're on track. Let's do this and this. And then we kind of broke everything in the very end. Literally, I mean, the last third of the movie, the last act is kind of 2 scenes and a big interview with everybody. And we didn't do what you'll see, if you see somebody saying something or a line or a scene happening, it happened once. There was never oh, we're going to do this. It was just us running around, the 3 of us with our cameras, trying to grab everything we could, and then, setting up whatever the last things. But everything was only once. There was never, let's go pick this up or anything like that. In the editing room, we had what we had, and we put it together the best we could.
Yeah, big time. I'll say, the last scene in the movie happened about 4 hours before we needed to be off the land. So that scene happened, and then everything was taken apart, and we were gone. The schedule was super tight, and we stayed on it. There's always something that happens that delays you here or there. We had built in a little bit of that, but everything happened, fortunately, pretty smoothly in terms of the time that we had scheduled, and for those things to happen. organically in the timeline of the film. So
We were trusting
you know.
the footage, and we had tons of interview footage too, so we knew something. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
and we had a living outline. I kept a living outline, and I kind of saw everything, kind of what we had. Absolutely. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to be in that place with the people we were with and not have our cutting room floor is like, you know, Kill Your Darlings. Our cutting room floor is just like dead, bloody, up the walls full, like fucking Freddy Krueger came in and killed everybody. Like, there's so much beautiful, awesome stuff that, you know, we had 200 hours of footage that we had to cut down into an hour and a half. So if you know, you could imagine like everything you see in the movie, there's that times 10, like amazing shots, whole scenes that we didn't do that we'll probably be like putting on YouTube and stuff like that. So people who dig the movie like can go see more and see some of these pieces that are really interesting. There's some standalone like, you know, scenes, and then there's, you know, and that were all put together, and then there's some shorter stuff. But the editing process was not easy.
Yeah, I could speak to this simply because I'm not an editor and I wasn't as involved with that process, but I got to see it from the outside. And one of the most interesting things is that we came back with 200 hours of footage. And like Adam said, there's gold. It's a sea of gold. And so that first cut comes together and it's 3.5 hours long. That's a great movie. It was a great movie. It really was. Like, it was a really great movie. But what I would speak to is the fact that ultimately what happened was Adam Stilwell had put together our outline. And so that, you know, we get in that editing room, we start putting things together. We've got this 3.5 hour behemoth, and it's like, well, how can you cut anything? And to Adam's credit, he came in it was kind of one of those things that happens like magic. It was one day where that outline had been on the wall, and he takes it off the wall and puts it down and said, this is where our movie is. This is what it is. And that gut instinct, that outline that we had been following since the beginning of the process turned out to be our Bible for this thing. And it really, like, it was so hard to see some stuff go, but we realized that the narrative was there in that outline, in what we had initially set out to do. It was just we had gathered so many beautiful roses along the way, it was hard to know which ones to keep in the basket.
The biggest probably thing I learned, and the biggest aha moment, and probably one of the best moments of my life, is I literally, like, it was one of those days where I was overworked. I didn't know what to do with myself. And, like, I'm the type of person that doesn't ever want to give up, doesn't ever want to stop, doesn't ever want to lay down, whatever. And I literally finally, I was like, I'm just going to lay down. It was before we'd made the cuts and everything. We had the 3.5 hour thing, and we were still adding, and you know what I mean? Like, and I laid down on the couch, and I just told myself the story in my head, beginning to end. And I just started, and I pictured the whole thing, and I walked myself from beginning to end. And then I went in and I looked at the outline, and it was pretty much exactly what I had just done in my head. So then me and Pittman at the time, I think David had to work that day. I think Nathaniel was working on making posters and stuff. I just said, Pittman, do you want to cut the hell out of this thing? And he was like, let's do it. Dude, it was incredible. It was one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, walking into that room after that massive cut had happened, and we looked at it, you know, and it was, it credit to the whole team, like super supportive of people having to make those hard decisions, and glad that we maybe didn't have to make those hard decisions and somebody else did. But yeah, it was just very supportive, you know, at a hard place to come in and do that to a lot of people's hard work, you know. But it had to happen because the movie is that much better having been an hour and a half of focused, you know, story as opposed to 3.5 hours of beautiful shots and great performances. You know, it's definitely a necessary part. You know, and yeah, the outline I'd say is huge. You know, in terms of moving through our next steps and our next projects we're working on, the outlines have become really super key. I mean, and even in other formats, we live by our outlines because a good outline is going to create so much better, you know, stuff.
It goes back to trusting your guts and why you set out initially, why you were excited in the first place to do this thing. And I think that's what it all came full circle after the entire experience. Is trust your guts, because you've got something. And a filmmaker knows that it's this sort of strange thing. It's like asking someone to be your partner. You know, you're asking this creative project to be your partner. And the reason that you ask and hope for a yes is because there's potential there. Years down the road, you come back and like, yep, the thing that we set out to do was the thing that it ended up becoming, which doesn't always happen in an artistic endeavor, but in this case, it really did. And it was a very long road, but it was very validating in that sense. Like, yeah, trust yourself as an artist, and know that the reason you got that weird feeling in your tummy, and we're like, I'm gonna go out to the middle of nowhere and spend 3 weeks in blistering heat with horseflies the size of nickels all over your body, is because there's something there, and love it and do it.
I'm really interested to have a conversation with a documentary filmmaker, because from my perspective, I feel like we went through what you go through making a documentary. You have to find your story, and you have to like get through it. And I'd be really interested to have a conversation with a documentarian at this point about like, you know, their process and how it all works, because it's really interesting. If you look at our movie, a lot of people go, oh, it's another found footage, or it's done found footage, but we really it's as close to a documentary as I could possibly think anything with some narrative has ever had. I don't know. I'd love to. I mean, we studied the class that won the, Palme d'Or at Cannes, and they did, a similar thing where they had a classroom with kids and, kind of they ran a lot more scenes, whereas we really didn't. We were kind of reacting the whole time. I think I was at the Montana Film Festival, and a kid was there from the college or something and asked, what would you tell a young filmmaker? And I was like, go to take a business class, take business, number one. And then other than that, I think I'd add to that, just if you can, talk to somebody who has finished a film, talk to somebody who has gotten it distributed. As many of those people as you can, because they're around every turn. There's so many more challenges, especially the way we had to do it, which was pretty much all ourselves, at every step of the way. And I would say, God, I don't like, this is the part where it's like, I'd rather teach a class or like sit down with individual people, but like, it just doesn't stop. It doesn't, you will learn the whole time. There will be, it's like, when you go into a production, the worst thing is going to happen on set. The worst catastrophe that could happen is going to happen. It's possible the whole way through. And your work never stops unless you're lucky enough to maybe get picked up by, somebody that can take care of you and usher you through. God bless you if that happens. And also, I kind of would say going through it the whole time, having to learn the whole time is also kind of a blessing, because you gain, it's like the greatest learning experience, and there's no class that could have ever put me through this part of it. And it's basically, once your film is done, figuring out how to either get a distributor or distribute it yourself, and then once it is, marketing it and continuing the ball rolling, and all the while still trying to still love this little baby that you've been with, and that's screaming and kicking you, every step of the way.
I mean, we've always said about this movie, it's been a Hail Mary from day one. The amazing people who have come on board all the way through from the beginning of, the Cock and Waffle, the team, who were like, yeah, let's go do that. Instead of what we like to do is go party and have fun at Burning Man, let's go make a movie. All the way through to the end, finding those people that have a passion for your project is super huge, it takes precedence necessarily over title or status and things. Like, if somebody is into your movie and wants to help you take that next step, that's usually, from our experience anyways, a smart move, because regardless of what happens, they believe in your project and your idea, and they're willing to take the steps to move it to the next place. And Yeah, you know, for us, you know, budgeting, all of those things, they all happened as we moved through the processes. A big thing for me, a wake-up call, was when the movie's in the can, like the work is just beginning for a lot of the production stuff. You know, and finding that budget, again, you know, we found our budget 3 times through this movie, enough to shoot, enough to edit, and then enough to actually get it to distribution. And yeah, there's a lot of work in there, and our movie made it through smart decisions from folks and people believing in us, and hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. But yeah, that's, like he said, the, you know, business, knowing the business, and you can learn that on the process as well. But it's definitely, once you get it in the can, the work is nowhere near done. We begged, borrowed, and stole what we could. We got a lot of investors that we owe. And we got a grant, a very, very gracious grant from the Montana Film Office. They've been awesome. They have championed us since we basically got off the planes there. And they've supported us all the way through our premiere a couple of weeks ago. So they've been really awesome in helping us and trying to promote this idea of film in Montana. Yeah, and again, finding people who love our project and who are willing to do work for, you know, meager sums. It's been a project of love and a Hail Mary all the way through. Montana's great in that sense. Everybody who's up there, I mean, just shooting there, it's like night and day. Everybody's excited about what you're doing, you know? And so to start from there instead of like, well, how much money are you gonna pay us, is a fantastic place. You know, they're really excited to have you, are interested in what it is you're gonna do. And the Montana Film Office is great in terms of you know, giving you the support and the structure and the things that you need. Permitting's pretty easy up there. There's not really a lot of legal loopholes to get through. The tax credits aren't the crazy best you're gonna find in the United States, but they do have programs to try and support people coming. And then I would say more importantly than that, it's the local folks, you know, who are willing to pitch in. You cook your whole crew dinner just out of nowhere. You know, the people are just truly spectacular in Montana. Not to mention the scenery, you know. And I mean, you go out there, you can find places that were literally built 100 years ago and haven't really changed. You know, that stuff exists. You don't have to build it necessarily.
It's authentic. I'd say it's probably people, land, everything. It's probably one of the most authentic places in America.
It's really eye-opening how much trust and support that it takes to get from your idea to this thing is now in the world. And it's a beautiful thing, you know, as much as it's scary in the moment, getting people and that trust on board, it's such a beautiful thing to have that many people come together and do something and have a finished product. Like, yeah, it was truly mind-opening how much work goes in and how much you cannot be an island when you're making a movie, I guess.
I think the thing that I've learned is that nothing is ever as bad as it seems. You get what, you know, it's a cliche, but you get back what you put in. And so we put in a lot, so we're going to wait around for that to come back. Just make your art. Make your art. Don't let anybody tell you that you're being too ambitious, that it's impossible what you're doing. Just make your art and trust your gut.
It's one of those, we really hate ourselves because it's like we had this awesome idea, like we wanted to do War of the Worlds with film, like we wanted to do it, and it's like, okay, so how do we tell people about it? You know what I mean? Because we're so small. You know, it'd be great if we had, you know, some big, you know, way to get it to people, you know, like the internet. No, but we try, like, but it's really hard. Like again, this is our first time through this, and we have a lot of really cool ideas, but also we didn't want to alienate people to be like, you know, so that's the problem. We didn't want to alienate people. We didn't want to say this is real, because then we didn't want people just watching it going, well, it's not real, you know, and not giving it a chance as a film. And then we also didn't want to, you know, say this is a great found footage movie, blah blah, because we didn't want to give away that you could maybe think that it's real, which it is very fucking real. Like it is like we've been saying. I think we came up with that. We basically, you know, this isn't a documentary. This is what happened. You know, like it's not a documentary, but this is what happened. Like it's not, you know, fake. I don't know. I don't know if we've really landed on how to market this thing yet. There's a million different ways. We've had tons of different ideas, but hopefully for me, I just hope it has a life of its own, and as many people who don't know about it, like we've been saying, go in blind, like go into it and get to experience it. And I think even if you do know any, like if you're watching this and you hear all these things I said, it's super interesting. Like, it's a good, I personally, you know, I can take myself out of it and look at it and see so much amazing work, and that it's the exact movie that I've always wanted to see. And so I think it's good.